Hey everyone, Sir Owen here, and we are getting ready to talk about yet another announcement, a bi-coastal announcement. This time we're going to be talking about Krampus. And we have been speculating this was going to come to the event since last year, and we were given the gift of Krampus on August 3rd. Unofficially, of course, because we got a clue, a hint on the @HorrorNights_Orlando Twitter feed that was simply saying error, and a link to a SoundCloud. And when you clicked on the SoundCloud, you actually got this, jarbled noise, and you kind of heard somewhat bells, and it sounded somewhat familiar, but you couldn't quite put your finger on it. But luckily, the good people of Horror Night Nightmares came to our rescue, as they always do, and they basically went through a lot of deciphering, and it was figured out rather quickly what this was. Now, there was speculation this was going to be the announcement. We've been waiting for this Krampus announcement pretty much since last year, like I said before, and also now that we are in official announcement season, it seemed like every week everybody was wondering, when's Krampus going to come? When's Krampus going to come? Is Krampus actually going to come? Because we saw that awesome facade in Hollywood, and we were thinking, okay, we have to share this. We have to. There's no way around it. But will we? I mean, even a little bit of apprehension was in our voice when we were saying that, because it was kind of like, we think we know it's coming, we're not possibly sure, but we'll be vindicated soon enough. And sure enough, it took till August 4th to vindicate us, but August 3rd we got that SoundCloud, and like I said, very quickly, HNN discovered through a spectrogram that it was the tinge to the beginning of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, and that is thanks to a good personal friend of mine, Mystic Freak, who a lot of people know in the community, and she basically played a lot of Name That Tune when she was a kid, so it kind of helped the fact that she only had one note in order to nail that song, and I did the same thing, so I could totally understand. The thing is, I'm a game show guy, everyone knows that. But anyway, that's a story for a different time. Take a drink if you're playing the game at home. So, that wasn't what got it. What originally got it was the fact if you put the wave code in a notepad, the words Krampus teaser were actually in there. Man, they're just goofing left and right this year. It's crazy. So, then it was officially announced the next day that Krampus was finally coming to Halloween Horror Nights on both coasts. So I have several things to talk about today. Basically, I want to read like I said, I did the media video, and that's already up here. I want to read a little bit of a blurb from it. It says, "The dead of winter sets the stage for the terror that's about to unfold. One cold, dank, and dreary Christmas Eve as the fabled anthropomorphic half-goat, half-demon horned creature emerges to terrorize those devoid of holiday spirit. In scenes lifted directly from the film, guests will navigate the dysfunctional Engel family home to encounter the evil ancient spirit of Krampus, the dark shadow of St. Nicholas, and his band of dark elves and sinister gingerbread men who cause the family to fight to see the light of day." So that's very interesting. Very interesting. And Mike Aiello took to Twitter, and when he took to Twitter, he basically mentioned a few things. He said a couple things. Number one, something that's been speculated for a long time: this location is going to be Shrek. Now, a lot of people were thinking that this was going to be where Chance's house was going to take place. And we were proven incorrect because they decided they wanted to use Shrek instead. And I understand the reason why, and I'll get to that in a moment. So, we're going to encounter the Dark Elves like had been previously mentioned. We're going to go into the attic. We're going to see the toy-like creatures. And you're going to see the gingerbread men in the kitchen. It's going to be the frozen facade of the Engel family home. Probably a less confined version of what they're doing in Hollywood, but we'll talk about that momentarily. And the code name was Schnapps. That's very interesting. We're going to see Krampus himself. That's something I'm looking forward to. Should be pretty fun. So, then we went to the blog post. And the blog post, written by Charles Gray, basically told us a couple more tidbits of information. Not only are you going to have the Dark Elves and the Gingerbread Men, oh no, the Gingerbread Men are going to have nail guns, so they're going to do that scare, which I'm looking forward to, which is one of the only things I enjoyed from 2014's Dracula Untold maze. And the giant Jack-in-the-Box, that dare clown, the one that starts as a jack-in-the-box, then it can eat children. It's going to be absolutely terrifying, and I'm totally looking forward to seeing that right before my very eyes. There's going to be teddy bears, the demented teddy bear so much that we've even somehow found a way to create a Twitter account at HHN Teddy Bear. Absolutely crazy, because we have HHN Bear, and now we have HHN Teddy Bear. And a long time ago, we had a myriad of various creatures had an HHN account to them. It all started with a duck. In Disney, it all started with a mouse, and Universal, it all started with a duck. Actually started with a woodpecker. But that's beside the point. See, the thing about it is, you're going to go through the workshop, you're going to witness Krampus in various states throughout the maze. I'm going to guess you're probably going to see little bits and pieces of Krampus until we get our full reveal in the finale, which makes perfect sense to me. And I'm guessing, based upon my knowledge of the event, and based upon something that was used also in 2014 in Roanoke, I think we're going to get a stilt walker. I think you're going to get a big Krampus costume on stilts, and that's going to be your final scare. I think that's a really good possibility. A lot of people were thinking it might be an animatronic. Some people thought it might be a giant puppet, kind of like the Evil Queen in Hollywood. No, I actually think it's going to be on stilts. And I think that makes perfect sense, because then he could kind of bend down. And I think it was mentioned, either mentioned on a message board, or it might have been mentioned during a Popcast chat, which makes, I think it's Popcast chat actually, makes perfect sense that it would be awesome if somehow, some way, when the Krampus bend down to look at you a little closer, obviously because he's towering high above you, I think something I would imagine, and something that was brought up in our chat room, that I think we could possibly see maybe like somehow, some way, you would have like a scent of death. I don't know how that would work exactly, but like when the Krampus breathes on you, it smells like death. I think that would be insane and absolutely intense, and I totally would be down with that. I'm really looking forward to this maze. I don't understand about the placement in some ways, and I do understand in the other ways. If you listen to our Krampus Popcast, you would know what I'm talking about. And if you didn't, then go check it out. I mean, obviously, there's links here on the network, and there's also easy ways to get to it on iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher. Mainly just iTunes right now, because that's what we're promoting. But still, you can get it on the other medias. Basically, what I'm thinking right now is, number one, you have all the heavy hitters in the front of the park. And it was confirmed that Ghost Town, the Curse of Lightning Gulch, is actually going to be sharing with The Walking Dead. Presumably in Soundstage 24. That's all speculation, because we do not know the locations yet. This is just based on what we're thinking right now. You've got The Exorcist. That's going to be up there. And then on top of that, you have the Mega House, which is yet to be announced as of this moment. Hopefully it'll be announced before the Popcast Saturday night, so we can knock everything out in a really awesome way to go out on top when it comes to the actual reveals on our podcast. And all this is in the front with Krampus and Shrek. So you have a huge log jam in the front of the park. I understand you want all of the heavy hitters up front, so everybody's like bing, bang, boom. But I'm going to guess, and we'll talk about this a little bit later, when you go to the annual pass holder event nights, you have the access to the back of the park, and they're not giving us Men in Black, they're just giving us the normal two-sprung tents in the parade building in the first showing of Bill and Ted. But I'll get to that momentarily. Actually, a little bit later than that, a lot more than momentarily. But the thing is, I think that you have that, and then by the time you get out of Bill and Ted, there's 2-hour waits for everything in the front of the park. That's just how it works. I mean, I think that's a possibility this year. I have no idea what the crowd flow is going to be like, because I know a lot of people that I'm aware of are not getting Express. None of us in the network are getting Express. And I know a lot of the heavy hitters in the community are not getting Express. I'm sure there's people that are, but by and large, I'm not exactly sure if people are going to be getting Express as much as they were last year. I guess we'll see how that works out. So you have all of that in the front of the park. And then in the back, you have the slashers, and you have the original content, and you have Bill and Ted, which obviously always brings in crowds, and deservingly so. So it makes perfect sense that that would be the case. But you put Krampus up there, and that ties it in. I mean, there were rumors, very slight rumors, about maybe doing like a mini Dark Christmas scare zone to lead us into the house, which, given where it's going to be, it doesn't really make much sense, but I guess we'll have to see. I mean, there could be hidden things we don't know about, because obviously every year, just like we have roaming hordes this year, we don't know what the roaming hordes are going to be, we just know they're going to be there. And we know we have 5 scare zones, not 6, 5 scare zones. And basically, maybe this might be like an unannounced scare zone to lead us and get us into the Christmas spirit or the Krampus spirit. That would make perfect sense to me. So, who knows if we're going to go that direction or not. Other than that, I think that this location is perfect for a few reasons. Well, first off, you have, number one, an enclosed building, which by all rights, it's a soundstage. I mentioned this last year. We're talking about Asylum in Wonderland. And with a soundstage and being indoors, you can do the snow effects that we used last year in Body Collector's Recollections. And you also can have a facade that you do not have to worry about getting weather damage by the unpredictable Florida weather, which is something I think that's going to be an issue for the Men in Black tent. Hopefully I'll be proven wrong, but we will have to see when we get that officially announced as our location, because it hasn't been announced yet, obviously. It's still there. It's still, like, sitting on the back right now, and it's just, like, sitting there. It's probably under construction, probably, like, way under construction by now, probably has most of it done, but we still don't know that as an official location yet. Hasn't been officially confirmed. But still, and that was where a lot of people were thinking they were going to put Krampus, and I know that probably would have made a lot of people angry, and now, even though I championed that idea, and I thought it was a great idea because you need a loud house to block out Bill and Ted, and since they're so close together, I would state that I understand. I fully understand. I understand why they would do that, because the facade they're going to use, obviously, is the Engel family home. It's in the actual wording itself. And it basically lines us up that you're going to walk in to that unassuming door in the back of Shrek, and then you're going to see, bam, right there, the Engel family home, all lit up, all decorated for Christmas, and you're going to have the snow falling, you're probably going to hear Christmas carols playing in the background. I think it's going to be awesome. You may see Krampus on top of the roof. I think that's a good possibility as well. We'll get to that when we talk about Hollywood. So, yeah, I understand why the location is where it is. There were rumors that Chance's house was going to go in Shrek. I think they may have flipped things, or maybe they didn't have that idea in the first place. Maybe everybody got their information wrong. Who knows? Everybody was speculating about it, so who knows if they were ever right or not. You know, we'll never know that information. So, that's what I'm thinking about Krampus. I'm really excited about this house. When I actually get to release my actual lineup and my anticipation list, which is not out yet. Well, it is kind of out. It's out on my Twitter, but, I mean, there may be some things missing. I don't know. Who knows? Maybe things are coming. Who knows? We'll see. The thing is, Krampus is higher on my list than I thought it would be. Maybe not as high as most people, because I'm so confident in the original content this year. And I got a couple things that I'm personally really excited for that I'm sure a lot of people will be excited for as well. So, but we'll get to that at another time. So that is Orlando. We shift over to Hollywood. Hollywood gave us the by the pricking of my thumb, something wicked this way comes, which is what John Murray's been using to announce the fact we're getting an announcement like immediately. And sometimes he makes us wait for it. And he made us wait for Krampus to almost Scare LA, which a lot of people were thinking Scare LA was going to be Krampus' announcement. And that almost got there. And technically they did announce things at Scare LA, and I'll mention that at the very end of this video. So then Murdy, of course, reads his dialogue. And Murdy's dialogue is a lot different from what we do here in Orlando. And he basically just tells us the story via 140 characters or less. So, you better watch out. You better not cry. Krampus is coming to town. It's very true. He says, I knew St. Nicholas wasn't coming this year. Instead, it was a much darker, more ancient spirit. It was the shadow of St. Nicholas. It was Krampus. As for 1,000 years, Krampus came not to reward, but to punish. Not to give, but to take. That's what Omi said in the actual movie itself. The Engel family has lost the Christmas spirit, and there will be hell to pay. Everyone knows the story about Santa Claus, how he brings toys to little girls and good little boys on Christmas Eve. But what is less known is what happens to the naughty children who don't make Santa's list. This ties into the Dark Christmas Scare Zone that has been oh so successful for the last 2 years, which I'll get to that in a minute too. He visits them on Christmas Eve, and what terrible gifts does he bring them? Now you're about to find out. Welcome to Krampus, a horrifying twist on an old world Christmas legend based on the 2015 hit film by writer-director Michael Dougherty. So he continues. And he continues by saying, for centuries, parents in Europe had frightened their children with stories of Krampus. Now Krampus and his nasty little helpers have come to America to terrorize just one family who has lost the meaning of Christmas. It'll be a lesson they'll never forget. No, that's if they survive it. Horrors come home for the holidays, and it's going to be a very scary Christmas. So, obviously, John's been wanting to work with Michael Dougherty for a long time. And the thing about it is, a lot of people want to see Trick or Treat. And I think if everything lines up with the sequel coming out next year, I think next year may be the year. I think this is what gets the foot in the door, and this gets us Trick or Treat down the line. If it comes to the event, I think that this will be the catalyst to make it happen, just like I've said on videos and podcasts as well. Now, a couple bits of information from Hollywood's Maze. This is going to be in the back lot where Crimson Peak was last year. And it's currently under construction, so much so that people are getting pictures of it, so John had to release it, right away. The only thing that's not ready on it right now is not decorated with lights, and it doesn't have the foaming ready for the snow. Once that is done, then good, great, grand, wonderful, ready to go. But everyone knew what it was with the shape of it. You were thinking that Krampus was going to be Doris Day. A lot of people were, I was, but then it was proven that was incorrect. And Doris Day was Freddy vs. Jason, but we'll get to that in another video. But the thing is, with Krampus, it never had an actual code name itself. It was just kind of there, and it came out of nowhere. It was a fan favorite wanted maze from last year, After Dark Christmas. There was a couple things that I'll mention based on that. So, when John Murdy and Chris Williams went to Scare LA, they had a panel. And they talked about different things about Krampus. Now, they had the original idea to do Dark Christmas as a maze. And that was something we were all speculating was going to happen. It was something that was really early speculation. There was finally going to be a Dark Christmas maze in Hollywood, and we were going to get it in Orlando. It was going to be a completely original take on Krampus, maybe Dark Christmas featuring Krampus. I mentioned this in my videos previously, talking about the fact that I think that it'd be a Dark Christmas house, or maybe an urban legend house based on Krampus, and it wouldn't be tied to the movie. But they actually flipped the switch this time, and they actually went with the movie instead of the original take, which I think that they could have. But, I mean, I guess the reason why they decided to go with Dark Christmas as a scare zone and Krampus as a house is because they had to talk with Legendary Pictures, and you gotta do that synergy, like I said, with Dracula Untold, and also Crimson Peak. So it makes sense that we're going to have, if there is a horror movie, or a close to horror movie in Crimson Peak's case, or technically Crimson Peak is like gothic horror, but in Dracula Untold's case wasn't really much horror, more of an action film. But a Legendary Pictures release that you could see coming Halloween Horror Nights, I have a good bet that it probably will. But that's another story. I would say right now, I can't drink because I didn't say a different time, because I didn't put it together. You cannot do that. So, it was mentioned about that during Scare LA. Krampus will be on the roof. There was a spot for Krampus to stand on the roof. I think that's going to be an awesome idea. That's going to be great. The Twitter password is going to be given out in this house. I was actually thinking this was going to be another house that's yet to be announced. But no, they actually confirmed it's going to be Krampus. And it's going to be tied to the Delivery Man. And the Delivery Man is going to give you a retro Krampus postcard. Sounds pretty awesome. And the events after the movie are where the maze takes place. Krampus is going to have the Dark Elves and the Jack-in-the-Box, just like in Orlando, and the Gingerbread Men will be in the maze. We mentioned before that Krampus has been used through a lot of haunts. And I actually got to see a walkthrough of a Krampus maze a while back. Based on the actual movie itself, there was a compilation Michael Dougherty house that had Krampus and Trick or Treat both in it. And looked phenomenal, made me really want to see both in Orlando, and I hope that they do come. Both of them do come, obviously. I think we're going to get Trick or Treat next year. I think that's pretty possible at this point. We'll see what happens with the sequel, though. That's pretty much what it hinges on at this point. So, that's an interesting little tidbit. When I saw this maze video, it was a very short, it wasn't a walkthrough, it was just kind of like little clips. And it was funny because you had Michael Dougherty and Dave Koechner, and they were walking around the maze itself, and it was like, oh, this is scary. It's funny to watch Dave Koechner jump. It's really hilarious. And the thing is, like, whoa, and just whenever you saw him jump, the only thing you want to say is, whammy! But the thing is, I had to. Sorry. I feel bad. I feel personally bad for having to put you guys through that, honestly. But, yeah, Champ Kind walking through the Krampus house. The thing is, if you don't know, because most people don't think, they hear me say Dave Keckner and they don't know who I'm referring to, because the way his name is spelled, it doesn't look like it's Keckner, but I can assure you that it is. But the thing is, Michael Dougherty, David Keckner. It makes sense. Both of them don't look completely like what they're pronounced as. But still, I got a lot of hype for this when I saw this video. I saw the teddy bears as puppets. I think that's a possibility. I think there actually could be small characters actually doing actual teddy bears attacking you. There was a really awesome... We're going back to 2014. We've been doing this for a lot, actually. A lot of the stuff from this video I can talk about 2014. Speaking of 2014, Dollhouse of the Damned in Orlando. There was actually an awesome scare where there was a big pile of toys, and all of a sudden, a person burst from them. I think what we're going to see is you're going to get that same scare in Krampus, but you're going to have it done with gingerbread men. And who knows, maybe since we're in Shrek, maybe we'll possibly see Gingy, like, tacked to the wall with a knife. That'd be pretty awesome. So yeah, overall, I'm very excited about this. I'd like to see it in Hollywood, I really would. I'd like to see what they do. I'd love to see the different versions they have. And at Scare LA, they also mentioned some more stuff about The Exorcist. We talked about The Exorcist previously, but I can get into that a little bit. So, The Exorcist has been chased for 11 years. And this was finally the year it was going to happen. I mentioned a while back that I thought the reason why This Is the End happened last year was because Murdy wasn't sure he could ever get the rights to The Exorcist. And he wanted those exorcism scenes regardless. So, The Exorcism of Jonah Hill made perfect sense to actually do this. And plus, working with James Franco and Seth Rogen, I mean, everything, it made perfect sense that everybody in that group, that frat pack, if you will, like the subsidiary of the frat pack, obviously like the new school version of it, would work really well at Horror Nights, given the fact most of them go to the event, especially Franco. So, I think that it was a match made in heaven for that reason. It wasn't very well received by everyone, but it's kind of mixed reaction. I don't know if that means Murdy's ever going to do comedy again. I guess we'll find out. But with the lineup in Hollywood this year, it really seemed like if Murdy at all was considering this to be his last year to be his last year, when Murdy found out he was getting the rights to the big four slashers, plus The Exorcist, and something else which has not been announced yet, all the fan favorites that fans have wanted to come to the event. This is kind of like their 25. There's no number attached to it, but it feels like an anniversary year. And the thing about it is, you have to look on the bright side when it comes to your event in Hollywood, because it's all about IPs, and these are IPs he wanted to work with. And getting to work with all of these IPs, it made perfect sense that even if he was considering last year to be his last year, maybe come back this year. And then maybe next year, maybe he passes the torch. And next year is his last year. We will have to see. I guess, honestly, I think once Trick or Treat and The Shining are off the table, either gone completely or at the event, I think Murdy is going to step down, because he has done everything that he has set out to do as a creative director in Hollywood. But we'll see what happens. It's John's, obviously, it's his choice what he wants to do. He wants to stick around, or if he wants to bomb out, just kind of depends. We got a huge tangent there. So, The Exorcist band trailer is what scared both John and Chris so much that it began John's love for this genre itself. It makes perfect sense. And the trailer itself is going to be an inspiration for Hollywood's Maze. Now, The Exorcist had some very unconventional scenes that are not like the scares usually get in the maze. Looking forward to seeing exactly how that works out. So, yeah, video for this maze is going to be very must-watch. Especially, like, when we're waiting in line, potentially. Because we both have preview night the same night, so when we're waiting in line on our preview night, I want to see what Hollywood's doing on theirs. Because I follow on Twitter to see what, like, the wait times are, but sometimes they post videos, like last year where we were standing in line. I think we were Freddy vs. Jason. Ironic, I know. And we were watching This Is the End. So, yeah, I mean, I'm curious to see exactly what they're going to do with their event. And the pea soup's in there, the levitation's in there, the head spin's in there. All of this is in there. And they had one more announcement. But I'll get to that in Hollywood's video. They announced the scare zones. or something that I've been predicting in Orlando since 2013. 3 words. Park-wide purge. Yeah. That's your video. Like I said, very excited about Krampus. Looks fun. When you see my list, you'll see that it's a lot lower than a lot of people have it, and it's a lot higher than some people have it. It's kind of somewhat in the middle, so yeah, I'm really excited for it. I'm very curious to see what they do with the queue situation. It's the same as Asylum, or if they decide they want to do something different this time around. Are we going to get a unofficial Dark Christmas scare zone to lead us in? Probably not, but you never know. It kind of depends at this point. I guess we will see where we go, because we are not very long away. Oh no, we are, as I am totally killing time so I can check this up because I can't do math. We are 36 days away from opening night of Halloween Horror Nights, and I am super excited to be able to see the event 2 days earlier for employee preview. So, that's the video for this week, and that's your Krampus video. Stay tuned here to the Popcast Network for more Halloween Horror Nights coverage. We're going to be talking about Hollywood's event. We're talking about Freddy vs. Jason. We're talking about Texas Chainsaw Massacre Blood Brothers, and we're going to be talking about the Park-wide Purge Scare Zone. All coming to Hollywood. On the Orlando side, we got a huge announcement just dropped on us literally yesterday of all the original content coming to Halloween Horror Nights 26. Like, we know all the 5 scare zones, we know all 3 original houses, and we now know what shows are coming to the event. So, it's a wonderful time, isn't it? So, that being said, if you like these videos, tell your friends about them, leave a comment, do subscribe, help spread the word about the Popcast Network, and last but not least, you can follow me on Twitter, @SirOwenDisney. Follow the network on Twitter, @Popcast Network. Check out our Facebook fan page of Popcast Network, and check out our merchandise at Azazel.com/Popcast Network. Links in the description bar to all of the elite of the Popcast Network, as well as some awesome Halloween Horror Nights related content you can find on the internet, as well as just social media and just YouTube, and all points in between. Follow Halloween Horror Nights Orlando on Twitter @HorrorNightsORL, and follow Hollywood on Twitter @Horror Nights. And Hollywood's on Snapchat @Horror Nights, and Orlando's on Snapchat as well, HHN Orlando. So, that being said, I can't forget great forums for Horror Night Nightmares, Orlando United, and USH Forums off Inside Universal, as well as some great Halloween Horror Nights related sites like HomemadeHaunt.net, FirstClassHorror.com, HHNCrypt.com, HHNLegacy.com, HHNUnofficial.com, ThrillSeekerNetwork.com, HHNYearbook.com, and some awesome podcasts, good friends of ours, the Scare Zone Podcast, and the Frequent Fear Podcast, as well as the Dead Man's Digest, and last but certainly not least, our good friends from Neozaz.com. So all the links in the description bar below. So that being said, I want to thank you guys and girls out there for watching. Merry Krampus. And until tomorrow, boys and girls, that's all I got to say about that.